There are no rules when it comes to YouTube channels, but with TopicArlo in particular, I try to keep things fast and loose. I like to shoot from the hip. And I think it's time for a little reckless experimentation, because I'm always like trying to figure like what is a news story that is enough of a thing to make a video about. I know like the overall idea of TopicArlo is like I can talk about anything. The stakes are much lower. It doesn't really matter what the views are, but like there's still like a thing. Like I whatever I put out there, I like the idea that people are gonna wanna watch it or whatever. So I get a little bit lost in trying to figure out what I should make videos about. And then the real problem is there's always gonna be like little stories that probably aren't worth their own videos. And so I've like toyed with this idea. Like, do I do like the main videos and then I do like a leftovers roundup at the end of the week or something? I think there was like one time we tried to just make it a news roundup and that went okay. And basically today we're gonna do a very similar thing, like basically news roundup, but instead of just having it be like all of the little leftovers that weren't worth their own videos, there actually are like one or two stories in here that probably could have gotten their own videos. But I got stuff going on today. There's a lot to do. And yet there's all of these things I would love to talk about in the news over the last like couple of days. So I just thought, let's just talk about it all. Let's just throw it all into one big old fat video. What is this? Is this a Nintendo News Roundup? Is this another return of the Nintendo News Roundup? Or is this just some other, like, it's the thing. Yeah, again, there's no rules. I don't have to like establish a consistent format, consistent like branding. I gotta like commission a logo or something. I don't know. Like what even this is. I'm just gonna talk about a bunch of the news from today. This is TopicArlo today. That's the name, I guess. Is it a thing now? Is it a thing I'm gonna do? I don't know. Is it a thing going forward? Will I be commissioning the logo? The little like animation at the beginning, the little theme song or something. We'll figure that out later. However, I am gonna use the news roundup music that just like last time. I had commissioned a bunch of music for what we were calling News Roundup 2.0, and I never got to use it because we never did that. But I'm gonna use it here because it's really good. Northman, he does great stuff. And I do want to mention real quick, the last time we did this kind of like, news roundup style thing, I got plenty of comments talking about how it would be nice to have footage to match each story, just some kind of like, visual representation of what I'm talking about. And that's really, really valid. And I really do like to listen to feedback like that. Thing is like sourcing and downloading footage and like putting in graphics and stuff. It's not a tremendous amount of work, but it is some. And I think I really do want to focus on making this something that I can really get out there pretty quick. I really want to be a little bit faster, a little bit more, topical with this kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to strike a middle ground, have like some footage be kind of related when it works, but then other times it'll probably just kind of be B-roll of whatever. I'm kind of leaning into the like podcasty nature of this, so hopefully that helps. Hopefully that is seen as something of an okay middle ground. Well, we got a lot to talk about, so get that water heating up or start chopping those carrots or jump on the freeway, because it's time for TopicArlo today. Let's start out with the main story, the main headline that I think probably would have been its own video because I do have a good amount of stuff to say about it. This pertains to a story element from the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Technically speaking, this could be seen as a spoiler for anyone who has not seen the movie or heard anything that came out of the movie. I guess I apologize putting this right at the beginning of a long video. I feel like probably everyone's heard about this by now, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you might want to skip ahead or something. Yes, this is about Peach. Are you ready? This is about Peach and Rosalina's whole relationship as revealed in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. the whole Peach Rosalina thing has always been kind of weird. You know, suddenly there's this new space princess. Like, why does she look like Peach? You know, again, as I've said, I was like, is that just like lazy design? They just didn't want to come up with a new, they wanted her to be like really familiar. But yeah, like, so Nintendo's like sort of teased the idea here and there that maybe they're sort of related, especially with all this like Rosalina's storybook stuff kind of added into Galaxy. Just like it's been possible, and I'm sure there's been plenty of fan theories, probably plenty that basically said this exact thing. But the Super Mario Galaxy movie basically canonized the idea that Peach and Rosalina are sisters, and I think that's great. I think that's perfect. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm tempted to really, really talk about this. Really talk about what this means and, you know, looking back in retrospect, what it all meant. But I won't go too deep into that. But Miyamoto did say recently in an interview that, like, when they made Galaxy, they sort of had kind of a nebulous idea that they would be sort of related in some way. Like, there was some connection there, but they hadn't like firmly established what that was, and they figured they would just kind of like, okay, maybe we'll play with it again later. We'll just keep it ambiguous for now. But then the Mario Galaxy movie, of course, was like, okay, well, we're adapting this material with a much more substantial story than you would generally find in a Mario game. So that let them kind of open up the whole discussion again, approach it all from a new perspective. And that was when they did decide, like, yes, let's basically canonize this relationship. And it basically is canon now. In the same way, I think that there's always been sort of an idea that Mario came from like the real world, came from Brooklyn and, you know, found himself in the Mushroom Kingdom. That had not really been alluded to, represented at all in any real way in the games themselves. And yet a lot of the media kind of, you know, played with that idea. I never really knew if that was exactly canon, but then like the Mario movie itself, not that there is like a consistent canon, but in a sense, I do believe the first Mario movie really did like confirm, like, yes, that is where Mario comes from. That is the story set up for this whole series, more or less. And in that way, I do feel like that's kind of what's happening here. We can look back at the games and just be like, yes, that is what happened. Like, that's where Rosalina came from. That's where Peach came from. That's, I guess, how Peach herself made it to the Mushroom Kingdom, which is pretty cool. And basically, Miyamoto has confirmed in another interview with a Japanese media outlet, Nintendo Dream, that yes, this idea is basically being canonized. Not to say that moving forward, there's going to be like, you know, a bunch of Mario games with a bunch of deep story or anything. Probably not going to like really explore this a whole ton. But it's kind of one of those like, what do you call it? It's like word of God, you know, like the creator of this property has said something. And so we all just kind of have to like take that as the canon, you know, an irrefutable element of this fictional universe. Let me just read the quote here. He says, "Because we don't know what kind of game we'll make next with our characters, having too many character settings would become a constraint. I'm fine with being bound by the gameplay, but I don't want to be bound by having created a story, which has been the reason for not making movies for many years." So before making this movie, I hadn't decided on the character's backstory, but now that I'm making the movie, it's become fun to expand on the character in various ways. Therefore, I would like to adhere as much as possible to the settings created in the movie in future games. Now, this is I believe this is a pretty new interview and perhaps a newly translated one. I get the feeling the word settings might not necessarily be perfectly accurate. I know there's always like, it's tricky to translate this stuff from Japanese directly, but like he's talking about the characters and he's talking about the story and using the word set. I don't think he means just like the physical places. I think he may mean more like the situations or something. I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I'm interpreting this. And yeah, like it sounds like he's basically saying, now that we have firmly established this element of the story, I want that to be built into the games and explored in at least some way moving forward. And I think this is wild. I think this is really, really interesting for a number of reasons. One thing to consider before anything else is it's kind of funny hearing him say this, because he has been very, very separated from the development of Mario games for a good number of years now. Like, it sounds like he's barely had a hand in the last few. You know, I think they go to him to get like opinions and stuff, especially when it comes to like just like feel and like concepts. Like, what do you think of this thing? But yeah, he's really just not been that involved, especially since he began production on the Mario movie. The first one, it seems like that's really been taking almost all of his focus. So moving forward, you know, even if he does want to explore these things in future games, is that actually going to happen though? Like, is he going to like return to game development in order to do this? Or is he just kind of speaking generally, you know? He's just kind of like, I hope it happens. Or maybe the fact that he's Miyamoto and all he has to do is just give a suggestion and maybe people will run with it. You know, he may be able to just go up to the team making the next Mario game and just be like, can we touch on this? And they may just be like, sure thing, boss. You know, like, you don't have to be a director or producer to be Miyamoto, to be the guy who made Mario, and everyone wants to make him happy. So that's kind of interesting. Like, is he going to be bringing this stuff to future games? I don't know. But more interestingly, like, that's just, I don't know. It's always so funny, you know, Miyamoto's whole relationship with story and like, you know, oh no, he hates story and that whole like thing, you know, like obviously like the guy is like gameplay first, like pretty much always. And he's only now, he's admitting himself, he's only now getting into the story because it kind of has to, you know, because it is necessary for a movie. It kind of has to have a story, and that's got him kind of thinking about it. So like, is this him just kind of being like, I don't know, it would be cool. Like maybe he doesn't have like a solid idea. He's just saying like, it would be neat. Or is this like, no, this is actually a thing that we're going to see moving forward? Because yeah, like as always, Mario games don't really have deep stories. I don't even know exactly like what they would do to explore this relationship with between Peach and Rosalina going forward, if we're not gonna like retell the story or like the revelation of what happened. Like I don't see that happening. I don't see them making like a Peach Rosalina backstory game. Oh, sorry. It just like that idea, I'd never considered it before. Somehow, this is like you just experienced me for the first time imagining a Peach and Rosalina prequel game where they're like star children. You could even do like Mario Galaxy. Okay, this can't just become a whole like a whole like game design thought experiment. Let's design the Peach and Rosalina. But my mind is racing. Yeah, you could use like Mario Galaxy elements, you know, but like it would totally be styled after like Little Prince, because that's kind of like what the whole like Rosalina, little star child on the little like moon, like it's totally like Little Prince, but like you could make a whole entire game out of that. They're hopping between the planets and the stars and stuff. Oh, it's delightful. Oh, it's styled like, yeah, like after like the storybooks. That's amazing. We need that so much. Okay, no, probably not super duper likely. So barring that, how really do you explore this relationship in the games? Maybe it's just like, I don't know, acknowledging it in some way. At the same time, like when have Peach and Rosalina ever even like spoken to each other? You know, like Rosalina, she's not like a part of the games, you know? Galaxy 1 and 2 was when she was like a part of the story and she had like dialogue and stuff. But after that, like she's just a guest character. She's just someone else 3D World, now Wonder. She's just another character to play. I don't think her and Peach have exchanged a single word. Could there be a future Mario game where they're actually like both like a part of the plot or something? I mean, I love the idea. You know, I don't think Mario should ever have a super deep plot, but I think you could do something like that, something along those lines, and still deliver like a good, fun experience that has like just enough of a story. So yeah, I don't know how realistic that is, but I like the idea that Miyamoto is talking about it. In some way, he wants to integrate this new piece of the canon into the games going forward, and I think that is a very exciting prospect, however it ends up materializing. If it does. Oh, they could move through different like Mario Galaxy locales, but like they're all storybook style. And then the end of the game, like the very end is like they get separated or something, and like the very last scene in the game is like Peach like coming out of the pipe, and it's like the same gameplay, except it's like just her, and like that's like when she like gets discovered by the toads. This will be it. Let's do this later. let's do this together. You and me. We'll have this conversation later. We'll dream up this game. So next we have another story about Miyamoto and the Super Mario Galaxy movie. This one comes from an interview he did with NDW. And here he addresses the less than warm critical response to the movie. He says, regarding the critics' reviews of the first film, I remember thinking, they have a point, but I figured this time would be different, only to find that they were even harsher than last time, which I found rather odd. We stepped in from another medium and did our best to help energize the film industry, and yet the very people who are supposed to champion the film industry are the ones being so negative. It's truly baffling. And here, it's like, it's such a big thing, you know, critics versus audiences, and like, how should a person be judging a movie? And so like, so often you get the critics are all grumpy about a thing, but the audiences, oh, it's just dumb fun, they like it. And so like, it's already such a big, like messy conversation. But I do think it's interesting to see his words here. I think ultimately, it's so clear. It's clearer than ever that Miyamoto's not a story guy, you know? Like, I think he can appreciate a good story, and he did deliver some nice story stuff in the Mario Galaxy movie. I loved the whole Peach Rosalina thing. But I just like, ultimately, he really doesn't actually know what makes a really good story. I mean, like, it's one thing to come up with a good idea, a concept for a story. He actually used to be Mr. Story back on the NES. He thought like, no, we need like real characters and we need to have like a real motivation, you know, that kind of story. But like a Hollywood movie, a script where you are being constantly delivered just for a solid hour and a half, just story, things happening, dialogue, character development, all this stuff. That's a whole other ballpark, man. That's a whole other thing that I don't doubt I would be very good at it. Even the best among them struggle to do that sometimes. And of course, like, you know, it's a Mario movie. Like, what are you gonna do with it? What can you do with it? But it's just funny that he personally felt like he addressed everything that made the first movie kind of weak in the story department, and he's like surprised that it didn't work. I think that like that just shows how he didn't actually get it. Like he didn't actually understand what the problem was, what the problem people had with it, you know? He might have picked up on like little individual things like, oh, there wasn't enough Luigi in the movie, like that kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, no, you did fix that, but like that's not really exactly the problem, you know? Like, you know, not to dig too deep into it, but the real problem is it's just the whole thing is kind of paper thin. It kind of meanders. It's just a bunch of stuff that happens like in a row. There's no like real emotional weight to any of it. It really is just kind of like, here's some colorful stuff happening. And like, yeah, you know, as I said in my full review, I don't think it's a great movie. I really enjoyed it though, because I'm a Mario fan. But I can completely see that if I was not a Mario fan, I was not getting enjoyment just from like seeing these characters and these settings and these ideas represented on the big screen and all of the references from all of the years. Oh, my whole entire life, I've been playing all these games, and I just seeing it there. That novelty is that's the enjoyment factor. If I was not a Mario fan, I would not enjoy that movie almost at all. I think there's almost nothing to like about it, at least as like, you know, a grown up, you know, like a kid. They just like seeing like just silly stuff happening. Like, yeah, like of course a kid, like it's colorful. There's like fight scenes and there's silly jokes and like, you know, absolutely. But like I can't blame a critic or even like really any grown up who's not a Mario fan. I can't blame them for not liking the movie. So like, yeah, I think him really not getting what the problem was, it's just, and also like it's Illumination, like if you wanted a good movie, you wouldn't have picked Illumination. I'm sorry. Like they did a good job in terms of like animation and stuff, but like just look at their movies. They don't make good movies. They make popular movies. You know what I mean? I know it's like such a pretentious thing to say, but it's like they make movies that are appealing to broad audiences, families, kids. They ain't writing Shakespeare, you know, like pretty much just about none of their movies really carry much like actual emotional weight and everything. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of just silly fun. And if that's your thing, then like cool. And again, especially with kids, that's fine. But like you had Illumination make your movie. So like it's Miyamoto, who doesn't really know much about story, working with Illumination. I'm not surprised at how this turned out. So it's a little bit funny that he is. It's also a little bit funny. You can kind of tell that he, I mean, you know, it's Miyamoto. Maybe he deserves to be a little bit too big for his britches, you know, but like, okay, we stepped in from another medium and did our best to help energize the film industry. So like, clearly he went into this movie feeling kind of like, oh, well, like we're coming from video games, you know, we're gonna revitalize this stale energy, the stale industry with our fresh energy. So like, I think he already kind of had, kind of haughty goals. And when that didn't really pan out the way he expected, he's just like, why are all of you people who, like, you're supposed to be championing the film industry. You're supposed to be making all of this fun, and you're being so negative. I don't know. It is funny. I'm really not trying to say anything super negative about Miyamoto here. I think he may be a little bit clueless as to how a lot of this works, which, you know, again, is very much reflected in these movies, but whatever, I don't know. I just thought that was another kind of interesting little thing. Oh, and then to touch really briefly on how the Super Mario Galaxy movie is doing, it did really well for its first couple weeks. I think it seems like its legs have kind of run out a little bit. I want to say it may have crossed like the $700 million mark or something, which is a lot less than the $1.3 billion the first movie made, but it has not been released in Japan yet. That's a really big thing to consider. The first movie made like 100 million in Japan, so it's gonna at least another 100 million or something. Overall, both movies have now grossed over $2 billion at the box office. So like, yeah, I mean, even if the Galaxy movie is an expected reduction in overall sales, it's still doing very, 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 very well. But we'll get a much better picture of how that whole thing shakes out later. We've got a couple pieces of fun news on Tomodachi Life. Apparently, the Tomodachi Life Livin' the Dream is the most successful physical game launch of 2026 in France. For whatever reason, in France specifically, Tomodachi Life has had like the strongest physical launch all year so far, even beating, yes, Resident Evil 9, which was a multi-platform release, came out on multiple different platforms. Tomodachi Life was just a Switch game. We don't have the exact numbers, but a French journalist by the name of Oscar Lemaire claims that Resident Evil 9 sold 70,000 boxed units at launch. So if that is correct, then Tomodachi Life has sold more than that, maybe perhaps as high as 100,000 in France. Yeah, I don't know, but it's doing really well. I mean, it's doing pretty well overall. Like I'm really excited to see the final figures. Obviously, like you can't paint the whole picture just from like little bits and pieces of physical boxed sales here and there. Like we gotta wait for Nintendo to give us solid numbers at the next quarterly report, but it seems to be going pretty well so far. And then we also have reason to believe that Tomodachi Life was done and like ready to go nearly a year ago. We know that Nintendo does this sometimes. They'll finish stuff and they'll just kind of sit on it, and yet it's still kind of surprising whenever it happens, especially with Tomodachi Life, because like they revealed it over a year ago. So like I don't know, like that means it was like done. It was basically done when they revealed it. It's what it was at least very, very close to being done. But yeah, so like as usual, usually when games get age ratings, there's different age rating systems in different regions, but a lot of them require that for a game to be given an age rating, it has to basically be done, be like a certain percentage done, which is usually like almost all the way done, or definitely all the way done, or done enough just to start with like play testing and whatnot, as is the case with the USK rating system. And apparently this seems to have been dug up by good buddy John Cartwright. Big ol' shout out to him and all my GVG buds. As always, Tomodachi Life was given a USK rating in May last year, the 20th of May, 2025. So yeah, just about 11 months before the launch of the game, it was done enough to be rated. And Nintendo was just like, we'll just sit on it for a bit. We're fine. We'll let you know. And I guess it makes sense. Switch 2 had a pretty good number of games come out last year, especially in like the last chunk of the year. So they just kind of waited a few months into 2026, pad out the schedule a little bit. All right. So that was pretty interesting too. Oh yeah. And then in reading the Nintendo Life article on this, I forgot about this. Apparently Metroid Prime Remastered was rated by the USK almost 2 years before it was released. That's crazy, and that would be why we had rumors about it for so long before we actually got it. It's because Nintendo did it and finished it and just didn't release it. Super interesting. Let's switch gears and talk about our dear little Yoshi. Previews have gone out for Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. Nintendo invited various gaming outlets to try out a demo. So we've got, some brief little write-ups on people who played like an hour and a half or so of the game. And the general consensus is that this is a much more kid-focused game than usual. I mean, like, obviously Yoshi has always like appealed to kids on some level. All these different games, kind of different, levels of like simplicity and ease of play. Like the challenge level has certainly gone up and down. I never played Woolly World, but I heard that one was a little bit more like a traditional platformer. Then Crafted World was definitely a traditional platformer, but it seems like it was made a little bit easier, a little bit more casual. And then Mysterious Book seems to be going like really, really casual with it. It seems there isn't even any like combat to speak of, like at all. It really is just kind of like exploring and researching these creatures and whatnot. So very, very kid focused. But the funny thing is I've read a little handful of these previews and there's a pretty good spread of opinions as far as like how much it might appeal to someone who's not a kid goes, IGN's preview believes that, like this really is a kid's game. It's probably not gonna appeal to a grown-up as much. Like the person who played it was kind of like, it's really not for me. It really is just like a thing for little kids. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But just kind of like, wasn't really quite their thing. But then the Polygon preview was a little bit more in the middle. Just kind of like definitely acknowledging that it's on the easier side and good for kids, but still like kind of sort of engaging enough. Just kind of like a maybe, just kind of like a maybe we'll wait and see how it turns out. And then the Nintendo Life preview is a lot more on the not like positive side, but on more of the idea that like, no, this will appeal to a grown-up who's into this kind of thing, who's into Yoshi. Like they seem to have had a genuinely good time with their time with the game. So yeah, it is kind of interesting. I mean, I suppose you could argue that's the case for just about any Yoshi game, like I guess any game. Kirby is very similar too, where there are some games are like a little bit more traditional and higher challenge level than others, but you're always going to get kind of this whole like interplay between like the challenge level versus just the sense of discovery. How much does high or low challenge in a game affect any particular person's opinion on that game? Like it's a whole thing. So I am very curious to see what I will think when I play it, because does not look like a hard game. I don't need a game to be hard to be good, but I do need it to be engaging enough. And so far it does look fun. As always, I am pretty excited to play it. I think the whole idea of like researching these creatures and stuff, it does sound fun. It's just like ultimately, how satisfying will that be? How much will that engage me? I don't really know. But another consensus just seems to be that like that whole element is very clever. You know, it does seem to be a pretty cool game. Just that idea of running around and finding creatures and just like, what do they taste like? What do they eat? How do they interact in these? It seems like Nintendo has crafted a pretty cool little system. So we shall see how the whole thing shakes out in a month. In a month. Boy, things are really starting to come out now. Jeez. Final pieces of news I feel like talking about today. Argonaut Games is teasing a, you know, perhaps remaster, remake, or some sort of revisitation of Buck Bumble. You know, Buck Bumble. That N64 game that I probably heard about at some point, but never played and never knew anyone who played. Yeah, they're teasing something. They posted the awesome Buck Bumble theme song to their socials and said, "We will not be taking further questions at this time. Stay tuned and be sure to follow us for forthcoming news and announcements. Hashtag Buck Bumble." And yeah, apparently Argonaut was responsible for that Croc Legend of the Gobos remaster. So, you know, that I heard that was pretty good. They do pretty good work. And Ant Dude's gotta be, I haven't texted him yet, but he's gotta be losing his mind. The only footage I have seen of Buck Bumble in my entire life was him showing me the game and yelling about, like, just screaming his head off about how he loved it and how it was beautiful. It's a beautiful, wonderful game and nobody gave it a fair shake. It is a wonderful masterpiece and they are wrong. It is a misunderstood gem. Something along those lines. And he was super into the Croc remaster too. So I can only imagine he's feeling pretty darn good today. And then in other, like, you know, classic game re-release news, it's not really a Nintendo thing. It's more of a Sega thing, if anything. But I did want to throw it in here. Echo the Dolphin Complete has been announced. It seems they're looking to package in like most versions of the first two games, not necessarily every Echo game ever, but like mainly, yeah, the first two, as well as a new one, a contemporary game built for the modern era. And they're also talking about like leaderboards and achievements and like speedrunning stuff. So like, I don't know, it sounds like a pretty big package. And apparently the brand new game that will be included is being made by a lot of the original development team. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's promising a lot, which is kind of surprising considering they've not like shown anything. And that definitely makes me feel a little like, I don't know, saying we're going to give you this big collection and it's also going to have a new game in it instead of just being like its own thing. And we're going to like, it's just, they're kind of promising a lot. I think I need to see this actually start to materialize, I think, before I believe it. I'm not saying they're lying or anything, but like, I don't know. It is just a lot. I mean, it's great. It is cool. I never like played these games, but I always like I loved watching people play it. I love the, just the whole aesthetic, the whole thing. It's just so, it's just so deliciously 90s, you know, like just like psychic dolphins and just like ocean aesthetic. And it's beautiful. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I know some people who will probably be pretty happy about that. So that's it for this episode of TopicArlo Today. Hope you enjoyed. I hope it was a good way to say a bunch of news. You know what, I really do. I need your comments. I need your opinions here. Is this fun? Is this good? There's a bunch of news in one day. Just like slap it all into one big old video you can just kind of put on like a podcast? Or do you prefer me focusing mainly on like bigger stories and releasing them as their own videos? Yeah, I don't know. Let me know. And if enough people do like this format, well then, you know, I just may have to never return to it again and then try something else completely different in 10 months.